What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 4for4 Philly Fan Podcast. Going to be doing a little bit differently right now with my guy Tim Talks Philly. We're going to be doing this show maybe once, twice. Who really knows? Depending on the Philly sports aspect of how the week goes, we could be doing the show however many times we feel like it's need to be doing. Just to let you guys know, me and Tim we work together at our day jobs. Well, we used to. We saw each other on Broad Street after the Eagles clinched the NFC, and you know, two two drunk minds think alike, and we thought, why not make a podcast? So here
Yeah,
we
the good old days.
are, a lot better than last week.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah,
But
no, from my end, I'm real excited. We wanted to get this started up a little bit earlier. Wanted to have our first episode out before the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, we couldn't make that happen, and now mood's a little bit different than how that one would have ran. But still really excited. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Baseball's almost here. Watching videos of Andrew Painter out here taking his first bullpen of spring training, which is really exciting. Um, Sixers hopefully, can do something to make us proud. A little bit too much defeat, a couple ends of seasons for Philly, but really excited to get this all started up.
yeah, for sure. So obviously, Eagles did not win the Super Bowl. We know that as of right now, and it sucks to lose. You never really want to see your team lose, especially just 3 months ago, the Phillies losing the World Series. And for those of you that like soccer, the Union also lost. So it's been a rough go around in Philly sports. Obviously, it's great to make the championship, but you do want to win the championship as well. And they just have not been able to do that. So we're still going to be talking some Eagles football because it's so fresh in our minds. And the main thing about the Eagles as of right now is the free agency. I mean, you got so many guys, free agents all over the place, mostly on the defense. And you got your Sanders and your Malus of the offense that are also free agents. And, it's going to be tough. Obviously, Howie Roseman has been a very good GM with the contracts and the trades and all of this stuff. But I mean, taking a look at the list that I have of guys that are free agents, it's going to be impossible to recreate the team that just took you guys to the Super Bowl. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some guys that are walking for, millions of dollars, probably like Bradbury and Fletch. And then there's guys that you can re sign, but are there question marks about it? So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the big talking point as soon as that game ended. Everyone who wanted to chime in on Jalen Hurts, it was about how good this team was around him, and would he be able to do it without them. I trust Howie Roseman to kind of put a similar team around him. You still have one more year without him making the big bucks. So next year is going to be your time to shine, Howie, once again. And I think he'll be able to do it. I don't think you need to bring back all these guys. You'll be able to make moves in free agency. You do have two first round picks, in this draft. So if he hasn't given me a reason to doubt him after last season, so I'm excited to see what he does going forward.
Yeah, for sure. So just to get right into it, we, me and Tim, both made a list of the players that we need to re-sign, we would benefit from bringing back, not worth bringing back, and just straight up let them walk. I think we should start with the need to re-sign, uh, and I think I can go from both of us saying C.J. Gardner Johnson is a guy that we need to bring back. He's 25 years old. He led the league in interceptions. He's a hard hitter. You saw that in the Super Bowl. He cracked Pacheco. He fills the lane. He plays good zone defense. He plays good man defense. He can play the slot corner. You saw that with Maddox going down. C.J. Gardner Johnson is a guy that, during the offseason, we traded for him real late into the offseason, right before the season started. He came in, and through those first 6 weeks before he got injured, he was an immediate impact, and he was getting interception after interception. He was making the plays that everybody expects a top safety to do, and he's only 24 or 25 years old, which is just so needed in this defense, especially when it took you guys until the last couple of weeks of the offseason to even get a safety that we were comfortable with putting out on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much everything you said. I know, go like you said, going into this year, um, there is major talks about, hey, we don't have a guy. Like we don't we the only hole on this team was safety, and last minute how we made some magic and got him in here, and it's been huge. Turnovers from the secondary is something that we never really got to see a whole lot of the past couple of years, and being able to get six from him was absolutely huge. I mean, there's so many big picks, turning points in games. He just, like you said, heavy hitter. We're even seeing it after a tough loss. He's got that Philly attitude. Seeing him and AJ Brown back up Bradbury the way they did. Um, he's part of this team. He's made it known he wants to be part of this team moving forward. And I honestly, if I'm looking at any of these guys on this list, I think it's Howie Roseman's probably his number one target. I know there's maybe a couple guys that have had a bigger effect on the team, but I think he's the guy going forward that they're going to try and lock up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we both just said, he's a good locker room guy. He brings that attitude. He is what Philadelphia is about, and he has to be Howie Roseman's number one priority this offseason. Free agents wise, obviously Jalen Hurts is probably going to get the bag, but other than that, CJ Gardner Johnson is the guy that you need to lock down for a while because he's just so good. On my list of need to be re signed, I also have Javon Hargrave. I think Hargrave has been very solid the last 3 years with Fletch and with BG and Sweat and now Reddick on that defensive line, Milton Williams as well. He's a double digit sack guy. He was that this year. He was one of four guys on the team. He's a little younger than Fletch, than BG. So depending on contract, price, I think you should and need to re-sign a Javon Hargrave. He's a good veteran guy that can take the place of Fletcher Cox because he's not going to be there next year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. You have Milton Williams, you have Jordan Davis coming up and will be your starting defensive tackles, I believe, for the next few years. But Javon Hargrave, what do you have, 11 sacks this year? You kind of need to resign him. And my biggest concern is okay, yeah, he had a great year. Is that because it's a contract year? Because the last 2 years before this one, he didn't have double digit sacks. He wasn't getting to the quarterback as much. He was filling the run decently, but this year he really stood out. And you know, when you get double digit sacks as a defensive tackle, I don't care who you are, you're getting double teamed basically every time, and it's hard to get sacks, and he got 11 of them. So I think it should be a need to bring Javon Hargrave back. Hopefully that contract year doesn't come back to bite us, but I don't believe it does.
Yeah, I actually have him. He's at the top of my need to resign. You don't want to have to think about it, but you do. Who knows if you're bringing Fletcher Cox back this year? I mean, we'll get to him later, but he was one that you thought you were losing this year, and then they brought him back, and that was a big scare. You've brought in a good amount of other guys to be that second D tackle on this team, but you've had Fletcher Cox as a staple of your defensive line since you drafted him, and I think having Hargrave in there, he's a veteran presence. He's playing at the top of the game, and I mean, yeah, you got a couple nice draft picks there. If you let both of those guys go and you go get a top defensive lineman, you're looking at Jordan Davis and another young guy filling up the middle. And I don't say they can't get it done, but I don't trust that. I think this is a guy you got to go bring back. He's even though his stats might have not been there, those first couple of years, they still were good. They were I thought they were pretty great, and he's really been a name that's flown under the radar because you got a lot of big names on that defensive line. But that's been one of Howie Roseman's best signings, bringing him in. It was underrated when he made the move, and to this day, it's still underrated. But he's been one of those top guys on that line.
For sure. Yeah. So before we get into the other guys, I'm just going to address the Jason Kelsey thing. Jason Kelsey is not a free agent. He is technically, but if he comes back to play football, he's going to be a Philadelphia Eagle. There's no doubt about it. There's no debate about it. So he is technically a free agent, and I have him in need to re-sign. But if he plays, he'll be an Eagle. If he doesn't play, well, then he'll be retired. So just to get that out of the way, that's basically what Kelsey is to me at this point, and I hope he does return because that would be probably the biggest hit to this team as a whole if Jason Kelsey is not there next year playing football for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, we take Kelsey for granted. As much as we can talk about him, gas him up, there's nothing we could do that'll there's nothing we could do or say that'll truly show how important Jason Kelsey is to this team. Um, I think they've tried to bring in some guys. They brought in Dickerson. We ended up having to put him in a guard. And now we got Jurgens, who I won't trust to be as good as Kelsey, but if Kelsey decides that this is the end of his line, I think Jurgens will be able to step in and do a good job. Um, but yeah, we would definitely benefit from having him back. And it would hurt to lose him. But this guy's giving it his all for his whole career, and he's man, it would have been awesome to get him that ring against his brother. That would have been really really cool for him. And honestly, I've been able to stomach some stuff when it came up. I was out getting lunch while the Chiefs were doing their parade, and I kept saying, "Oh, turn it off," and I kept looking and being sad and all. But I'll tell you, one thing I haven't been able to watch is Kelsey talking about what that game was, because that's something that just hurts too much. Seeing how important that game was to him, and I mean, it stings. Like, even they I believe they did their next episode already, and I haven't been able to touch any of it. It's just it's one of the harder things to stomach right now. But yeah, like you said, he's not officially a free agent. If he's back, he's with us. If he wants to play football again, he's with us. That's a question we're gonna have to wait to find out until he decides he's ready.
Yeah. All right. My next guy, I have TJ Edwards. I think he's a very quietly good player in this league. He doesn't, get the respect as the top, college guys that come into the NFL as linebackers. He doesn't, have the flashiest name, the flashiest plays. He doesn't get interceptions. He doesn't, do a lot on the stat sheet besides make tackles. But guess what? He's a linebacker. I know he struggles in coverage a little bit. He's a little on the slower side. But, when he's top five in tackles over the last 2 years, that is something that a few years ago the Eagles truly struggled with, was finding a linebacker, and definitely finding a linebacker that can tackle a guy. That's something that, not a lot of players like to do nowadays, and that's get hit. And, TJ Edwards does do that. He makes the good tackle. He isn't the greatest in coverage. I will say that, but Travis Kelsey only had 60 something yards and a touchdown. And taking the middle of the field away, that's TJ Edwards. So I believe that TJ Edwards should be a re-sign depending on contracts. I'm not giving this guy, Roquan Smith money, because he is not Roquan Smith. He's TJ Edwards. And he is a replaceable guy, but he is also a guy that would be very beneficial being back in this locker room.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that, obviously not a great defensive performance out there in that Super Bowl, but a guy who finished second on the team in defensive tackles. One of the experiments that worked out for us. I mean, we know how long we've been itching for a serviceable linebacker, and took a lot of shots on all these undrafted guys. And they come and they go, and that's why we were so excited when we were able to snag up Nakobe Dean. We're hoping he ends up, being something special. But Edwards has done a phenomenal job, and I mean, you look at a lot of guys that we've been able to take in, and say, oh, they're a work in progress. That you know doesn't work out too well for us. But he's been really really good. I have kind of four categories as I'm looking at these free agents. Um, but on the list of how much I need to resign him, I still have a midway point of guys I'm bringing back and guys I'm bringing him back. I think he's not going to take a whole lot of money. I know you mentioned that you're not giving him a crazy bag. I don't think he's going to need it. I think he's going to want the money he's deserved. But I don't think he's going to require anything that's really going to hurt you from going out and making moves. And I think he's going to be pretty important to this team, especially considering a few other guys I think we're going to be losing this offseason. So I do think it's going to be he's a guy you're going to want to bring back.
Yeah, and honestly, that was it for my re-sign list. But looking at it now, I could put Epps in there. I could put, you know, I wouldn't be mad if anybody had Marcus Epps as a guy that you need to re-sign. Again, he's not, the greatest safety, but he is very, very serviceable. And look, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. It's not like they were a first round exit. It's not like they missed the playoffs by a game. And you really need to work on the defense and you really need to work on some things. You really don't. I mean, and that's why it sucks having 18 free agents this year because you had a team that just went to the Super Bowl and without maybe that holding call, who knows what happens. And I'm not blaming the loss on them. The defense was terrible but you were 3 points away from winning a Super Bowl or at least from bringing it into overtime, doing whatever with whatever you had left with Jalen Hurts in the offense, with whatever. But Marcus Epps is a guy that was very solid all season. And I will say this. I know a lot of people do like Reed Blankenship in the way that, he hits players and he's just like a hard-nosed guy. Reed Blankenship is not that good. He cannot cover and he's solid. He hustles. He's a football guy. But Marcus Epps is way better than Reed
Yeah,
Blankenship.
yeah. Blankenship's a guy who came in and saved you when you thought your season was over after losing Gardner Johnson, but he's not a guy you want to roll out there every game as your number one. I think I agree. I think I have Epps at near the top of my want to resign list. If they don't get it done, I still think there's free agents you can make moves on. There's going to be guys in the draft you can make moves on. So I kind of have him and Gardner. Gardner Johnson's my number two, so I do have him start in this. But I have Epps start as, hey, look, I want to bring him back. If you can go make a move and bring some guy in, it's it's not going to be as hard of a loss because I do think there are options there. But I agree. I mean, I had a lot going through my mind. You talking about that the defensive performance in that Super Bowl, which I think we're going to get to at some point. But this secondary, it made it look really bad, but this is a secondary that's been blessed all season with one of the best four-man rushes in the NFL. I mean, an historic four-man rush. And, I'm not going to sit here and blame the field. I think there was a lot going on where we should have shown some more creativity getting to the quarterback with the conditions that we were dealing with. But that four-man rush wasn't getting there, and that secondary was getting cooked. That's something they're not used to. So I don't want to sit here and take that one game to absolutely pepper the secondary and let it define their future with us. But Epps is a guy I really like. The only other guy on my need to re-sign list, I do have a list would benefit from bringing back, but my need to re-sign, I'm bringing back my man Boston Scott. I mean, this is a guy that he's the Giant killer. Cool. It's always fun being able to beat up on the Giants, and everyone's sitting there getting there anytime score Boston Scott waiting for it, and it happens late in the fourth quarter and everyone goes nuts. But this is a guy that he's a tough runner. I mean, whenever he gets going, he's fun to watch. You had a really good tandem back there, and he was an important part of it. Whenever Gainwell wasn't going, roll Boston Scott in, and now, and I don't think he's going to need a whole lot of money. You can go the carousel, bring in a third, fourth round running back, but I don't think you need it. I think you bring back Boston Scott. I think he's a pretty important part of this locker room, and he's just a fan favorite, and I think money is going to be a big thing on these next upcoming off seasons. But I think he's not anything that's gonna make you worry. So I think he's a guy that would benefit from us bringing him back.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I have him. Would benefit from bringing back Boston Scott's the number one guy on my list. He does stuff that Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell don't do very well.
Mm-hmm.
That is pass block. This man picks up that blitz so well. It's insane. And I'm 5'5" on a good day. He's an inch taller than me, and this man destroys, you
Stopping
know,
some big boys.
yeah. He destroys the blitz every time. Like, Hurts is so well protected when Boston Scott's out there. And you see it all the time when they do line up in a blitz formation. Who's next to Jalen Hurts? It's Boston Scott. And he picks up that blitz so well. And yeah, it's fun. And yeah, I've made a couple dollars this year on Boston Scott anytime touchdowns against the Giants. But, he is a downhill back. And you hand him the ball, he's not going to, mess around and go back and forth and move laterally. He's going to hit that hole and he's going to run straight until he can't anymore, until he gets tackled. And, you got a lot, he's got a lot of weight behind his legs. And, you even saw it in the Super Bowl. He had a couple shifty moves there where he broke like 3 tackles and got that first down. But for a guy like Boston Scott, who I'm sure has been working his entire life of being this 5'6" running back, and that's with cleats, by the way. So he's probably not 5'6", but he's probably been working his whole life being told he can't do this, can't do that. And this man has made a name for himself as the giant killer. A 5'6" running back from I couldn't even tell you where college is the giant killer, and that's kind of what gets taken. That's what gets looked at every time. But Boston Scott, to us Eagles fans, is a very solid running back who won't break the bank. He's not going to ask for crazy amounts of money. And, he's a solid player for this football team, and he's very good in that backfield along with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, he's a compliment guy, and I think he showed his value, especially this year. I think coming into this year was a lot of question of like, all right, is Boston Scott still going to be on the top of that rotation? Well, expecting to get a little bit bigger of a role. It seemed like it early on in the season. I don't remember seeing too many Boston Scott touches, where Gainwell looked like he was taking off, but all of a sudden he came out roaring, and I think I have him pretty high on the list. If you lose him, I don't think it kills you. I think you could go and find a guy. At the end of the day, you don't need to. You have him right there. Bring him back. Crisis averted. Have that guy who can go in with Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he can run the ball really, really well, and he can also block. This is a guy that is going to be able to complement any other running back you bring onto this team. And I think he has too much value to let slip.
Yeah, definitely. And just to, again, get this guy out of the way, Rick Lovato's our long snapper. To me,
Yeah.
I don't care if we lose him, if we don't lose him.
Yeah, bring him back.
Yeah, I benefit from bringing him back just because he's been
Yeah.
with the Eagles for so long.
Yeah.
So, but not too much. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, did you see the way that Rick Lovato snapped that football? Like, no, I'm not going to do all that. This one might come as a surprise, though. I have Brandon Graham as my would benefit from bringing back. I think he's a little bit, as of right now, I think he's a little bit better of a difference maker than Fletcher Cox. He was a double-digit sack guy. He had a very good career year at age 34. He is, that hometown guy, and I can see us signing him for nothing that, really, destroys that cap space. And I think if BG takes money that is a lot less than where he probably deserves at 34, why not bring him back? And I think that they'll work on that and try to really make that contract work. And I think that BG could be an Eagle next year, personally.
Yeah, when I put this list together, there was a lot I thought we were going to disagree on, but I'm right on the nose with that, man. I mean, I was even going to bring Braden Graham and Cox as much as important they are and as much as they deserve their own separate little segments there. I think it's a one you're bringing back, one you're not bringing back. I don't see any point in not bringing any of them back. I think you should be able to get one of these guys in, and I think it's Brandon Graham. Um, he's just so valuable to you. The fact that he was able to come off that injury, have one of the best years of his career, absolutely snubbed from a comeback player of the year because there's prettier names out there. I mean, this guy is showing that not only is he able to do this at his age, but he's able to do this coming off for a lot of people at his age, a career-ending injury. I mean, he showed you so much value. He's already made it known that he's going to come back and play some more football. It's just a question of where, and I don't see why Philly would want him to move anywhere else. I against him. He's done too much for the city, and this isn't like those hundreds of signings the Phillies made after they won the World Series, giving guys charity because they were big names. Guy that's still out here, he's still contributing, he's still getting the job done. I think you know we've seen so much from him coming off the edge. I love him and Hassan Reddick coming from both sides. It's a feared defensive line, and I think the more guys you can bring back from this defensive line, the better. And yeah, it's going to cost a little bit. He made 13.3 million this year. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be cheap, but whatever. I mean, gave you 13.3 million, and I think he outperformed that. I think he did a really really good job. So I agree. I have him on the bring back, and I guess we can lead that right into Fletcher Cox. I unfortunately bringing him back this year. I do think he did better this year. Last 3-4 years, I've been campaigning Fletcher Cox is he's making a lot of money for what he's been putting out there. He's been doing he's filling holes, he's pressuring, yada yada yada. But this guy used to be really really good, and he was getting talks for best defensive tackle in the NFL aside from Aaron Donald. And I'm sorry, he's still gonna want that money. It doesn't matter if you're telling him he's washed. He's earned that money. And I'm sorry, the name's too big. I'm glad we were able to get him back for this year because I did think he still had some left in the tank. But who knows what he's going to do now. At this point, I don't think it's going to be worth the money.
Yeah, I literally have him right where you did. Not worth bringing him back. Look, Fletch is a guy that, when it's all said and done, he will be a Hall of Famer. And probably first ballot at that. And, nobody might ever wear number 91 again in an Eagles jersey. He won a Super Bowl. He's been a really, really great all-time defensive tackle for this team. But you cannot, production-wise, you can't. You cannot bring him back. He's a defensive tackle. This is his last chance to get paid like a true Hall of Fame defensive tackle can. And you have a D-line that, without Fletcher Cox, is still going to be very good. It's not like Fletch had double-digit sacks even. There's been games where, Fletch gets lost. And I don't even know that he's on the field half the time. And look, I love Fletch. I thank him for all that he did. And if he comes back, I truly think it will be on it can't be anything crazy, and I don't think it will be. So
yeah, I'm giving those snaps to Jordan Davis. He's not going to be able to take on too much more than he's been doing, unless he's got some crazy conditioning going on this offseason. But yeah, it's one of those things that sucks. It's a guy that has been a staple of that defensive line. Like I said in the beginning when talking about Hargrave, it was so important to be able to have a guy in the middle where you say, hey, he's gonna stuff the line up pretty good. We don't have to stress too much. Just slide another guy in there. They'll do well with him. Cox is going to take the double teams. I don't know if he's going to be getting those double teams anymore. I don't think he was this year. Hargrave was getting a good chunk of that. and we still didn't hear too much from Cox. Honestly, I think we heard more from Cox this year because of that. But yeah, it hurts to say if they miraculously bring him back on and he gets a good price, cool. I won't mind it. I just have him at this part of the list because I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he's gonna go out, get his money for the last couple of years he's in the league, and I just don't think it'll be with us.
Yeah, neither do I. Another guy I have on my not worth bringing back, and it really does hurt me to say this because I was such a big fan of his coming out of college. Miles Sanders. I like the guy a lot. I think he's a very good running back. There's no doubt about that. I think he's upwards. He's in the upper half of the running backs in this league, maybe even top 10. But there is liabilities with Miles Sanders, and it's that pass catching ability. He cannot catch. We saw it in the Super Bowl. He can't catch. It's been an issue with him his whole career here. And I'm sorry, but if Gainwell can catch, and you saw how he was all playoffs long, Kenneth Gainwell should be running back one this going into this season unless you draft one. And I'm not if I'm Howie, I'm not drafting a running back first. Like in that first round. I think I think you could and I wouldn't be mad at it. But if I'm Howie, I'm letting Kenneth Gainwell take my backfield, and because you have that ability to now throw a halfback screen, an RPO, a little toss play. You have that now with Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Gainwell. Stuff that you could never run with Miles Sanders because you just can't catch all that well.
Yeah, I probably should have used a whiteboard when making this list, and it's because of that guy. The amount of times I said, "Yeah, let's bring him back." I'm hoping you get a little bit of a hometown discount of him. He said he wants to be here. He's hoping Howie can make it work. Hopefully, he's hoping he wants him as much as he wants to be here. But then there's other points that are telling me, "Look, go get a guy." It's crazy. I even think about because I've been leading the do not your running back campaign, which sucks because a lot of these guys are ballers, but there's just so many of them. There's like you look at how the Eagles have been for so long. We don't want one good guy. We want three guys. We want three guys that we're going to be able to rotate in there, keep fresh, and get the job done. I don't think I'm ready to put Gainwell in as my number one this year. Um, but I definitely wouldn't mind him getting an increased role. Um, so he's tough. I'm back and forth with him. Um, it comes down to he would need to be a good price to keep. Um, I, guy I love. Getting going into this season, I loved all the inside the team stuff when they're show they're coming in, the team's posting them, asking them questions. He was the funniest guy out there. He's why you were watching those videos, and he's a guy you love having on your team. But you said it. I mean, it comes down to it doesn't come down to nice guys. It comes down to what are you doing for our team. And honestly, for what he would want to get paid, I don't think I don't think he's I don't think we should bring him back. I think they they got a really good season out of him. You hit a lot of good points. Another big one's injury. We are very very lucky that he stayed healthy this year because he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it before. And being able to get him all year, that's why he was able to put together those numbers behind, an all-time great offensive line. But yeah, it sucks. You know, he's a guy you want to root for. But yeah, I think when you're looking at trying to get this team back to the now that's your goal. I think that would have been your goal even if you had just won one playoff game this year is getting to the Super Bowl. But now looking to get back, he didn't play that big of a role. If I'm not mistaken, he had the same amount of carries as Gainwell in that game, and we can argue as to why. I didn't fully understand it. Most of Sanders' carries were later in the game. I remember at some point thinking like, how much has Sanders touched the ball? He's at 1,000-yard rusher this year, and he's not getting any carries. But with that said, he didn't get many carries, and he scored 35 points. I don't think he's a guy that you necessarily need to bring back unless he gives you a really good hometown discount.
Yeah, and to still even talk about Sanders because I mean, this is the number, like, in my opinion, this is the number one offensive guy that you have to look at. Like, seriously, seriously look at. And like you said, hometown discount. And as I said a little earlier, was it the contract year? I know that
Mhm.
it's like such a sports analyst, like analytical talk, but you gotta look at stuff like that. I mean, it happens all the time. And even to switch sports in this city, and I'm not saying that it's going to be forever, but last year, and people have been bringing that up a lot, Nick Castellanos. I mean, the guy was phenomenal in 2021. Comes to Philly, struggles. People always say, oh, that's the contract year. I don't think so. It's just my comparison. I think Nick Castellanos is a damn good baseball player,
Can't wait
but
to talk about him in later videos because I'm leading the bounce back Castellanos here.
oh, I'm
Um,
already on that train.
yeah, yeah.
But
A few guys I'm just gonna run off here. I think we're both kind of on the same page with all of them. But if you wanted to touch on any of them, we could do that now. Quinn, Sue, Joseph. I guess we'll go those three guys real quick. It's not much of a question. I don't even know if Sue and Joseph are going to be playing football after this year. Um, so there, that's a Kelsey situation, but I'm not bringing them back either. That was something I was excited about when they made those moves. I thought that was going to really help us, and I think it did going down the stretch. Um, but man, Robert Quinn, that one hurt. That
yeah,
that's another one where you look at that move and you're praying that yeah, he's not going to do a whole lot. You saw what he was doing this year, but you were hoping he was the only good player in his team. And I might have saw his, I might have recognized his jersey out on the field twice since we got him. And that's being generous. I think all those guys you let go without batting an eye. Um, so I was hoping we could get a couple of those guys another ring, but didn't end that way. Um, and then the other guy I was going to have there is Bradbury. Not the best kind of end of his tenure here. I think he's going to get remembered for that for a while, which is a little unfair. I mean, he had a very good season.
oh,
Um, whatever these guys want to talk their smack saying he wasn't that good all year. He was good, and yeah, a good pass rush helped. But we didn't have to worry about cornerback all season, and that's the first time since who knows how, probably the first time since I've been born, not had to worry about that. Um,
at least
I
in
just think he took a little bit of a discount to get here. It was a nice little lot at the Giants. It was fun having him, but I don't think he's a guy you really are expecting to bring back at all.
yeah, I don't expect to bring him back. Um, Personally, I don't know where he would go, but somebody that has a lot of money, that is willing to give him a lot of money, they could take half of these guys if they want. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that some guys will follow each other. I think that Sanders, Bradbury, Fletch, some of these guys could end up on the same team with teams with a lot of cap space and looking to do something. But
I mean, hey,
Brad,
going to the Super Bowl is a pretty nice highlight on that resume. There's going to be a lot of guys seeing that, and a lot of teams seeing that, and say, hey, worth a shot here. Especially for guys like you said, Sanders is our number one back, had a 1,000-yard season. The more I talk about it, the less I think we're going to bring him back because yeah, he can go get a bag if he wants. There's gonna be teams that are going to pay him. Um,
for sure.
but
And
yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you when it comes.
I think Bradbury was great all year, and I originally had him as in like would benefit if we got him back, but we're not. Like, just looking at the 18 guys here, Bradbury is not coming back. Like, first of all, there's not really a need to bring him back. You have pick 10, you have pick 30. One of these draft picks is going to land you a cornerback.
That is what I'm expecting as well, especially if you manage to get Gardner Johnson back and you don't have a big hole at safety. I'm thinking it's definitely gonna be somewhere in the secondary. I think it should be in the secondary, and I think it's gonna be cornerback.
Yeah, I do too. And, that's, we have some time to discuss draft mock drafts and do all this. Like we have to go through a whole baseball season, NBA playoffs. That's the start, and that's when the draft is. We're not even talking till like April, but Bradbury, great year, great year. He will get a bag somewhere. My prediction: I think he's going to Duval County, and I think he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. In my opinion, I know
It'd be
they
cool
got,
to see.
but he's a guy that at his age is replaceable at this point.
Hmm.
Quarterbacks coming out, they play a different type of defense. These Big Ten SEC guys, they are just bred differently. And, getting a cornerback from one of those big name schools is what I think and believe that the Eagles will do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess right from Bradbury, we can kind of go to another guy in his situation. Because you're White. I think he had a better start to the year than he did finish. Was It was a miracle that we were able to bring him in for the price we were able to bring him in. I know everyone was kind of shocked about that. Don't really see us giving him a long term deal. I think there's too much going on with a potential. I think you're looking at either him or Edwards, and I think they're going to go with Edwards for financial reasons. I think he's gonna be a little bit cheaper. Um, but I also think they're really excited about Nakobe Dean, and they want to start getting him some more snaps outside of special teams. Um, Hopefully he balls out in training camp, and we see that situation. But I don't see us bringing him back, and I really don't. I don't really see us pursuing him too much either. I think they kind of view that as a hey, yeah, it was cool to get him in for this year. We were hoping to get a Super Bowl or a good playoff run, which we did, but hopefully a Super Bowl out of him. But we weren't able to get it done.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I am very excited for Nakobe Dean next year. I think he's going to be insane. And I think he's going to be very good for a long time. I mean, you don't, I mean, he was incredible at Georgia. He was the voice of that defense. And we have two guys on that defense now that are going to enjoy playing with each other. I mean, it's just levels. I mean,
Yep.
you got Jordan Davis up front, and then you got Nakobe Dean waiting in the back. And that one game, I can't even remember what game it was, but there was one game he played like I think White got hurt or something, and Nakobe Dean came in, and it might have been the Tennessee game. He came in, he had 6 tackles in 6 snaps. I mean, the guy he's a football player. Like he is like your typical football minded football player. He's smart on the field. He's he was great at Georgia, and thank God he fell in the draft. I mean, this guy
Mm-hmm.
was a top 10 pick at
Yeah,
one point.
yeah. What a mistake! Holy crap! That was that was a big miss there by a lot of those guys. You were on the nose there. It was that Tennessee game. He 6 tackles. I mean, he really came out of nowhere. A lot of people were wondering like, oh man, is he going to start getting snaps? We're struggling against the run game. Like, why is he not playing? Why is he not playing? Slap him in. Boom! All of a sudden, he's tearing the game up. So you're hoping that that's going to be something that continues going into next season. And I think it will. I'm really excited. I was with you as soon as I'm sitting there watching that draft, and when that second pick came by and it wasn't his name, I was devastated. I remember I after that I went outside, I started shooting hoops. I was very upset. I was like, wow, this was a guy I would have been okay with you taking in the first round, and he falls in the second round, and you didn't get him. I thought, what are we thinking over here? Um, and then I got the notification that we snagged him in the third round, and what a moment that was. That was a
I
Howie
mean,
miracle right there.
dude, it's crazy because like there's some sports moments where I'm sure all sports fans can remember exactly where they were when that happened, and some are good, some are bad. But Nakobe Dean, like I remember exactly what I was doing. Like I wasn't doing much. I was sitting watching the draft, and I remember we were coming up, and obviously Twitter and Rappaport and Schefter, they get these picks 10 minutes before the draft is even like going, and I put my phone down and I was like, I'm waiting until we make that pick. And my girlfriend took my phone and she was like, I'm not telling you who they picked. And when they said N'Kobe Dean, I was crazy. I was going nuts. And it's weird because it's a third round pick. And you normally would be like, okay, like a Milton Williams type of
Yeah.
pick
Mm-hmm.
or a Davion Taylor type of pick where it's like, okay, like maybe this guy can do something once. N'Kobe Dean was a top 10 projected pick. I mean, some guys had him top 5. And we got him pick like 80 something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it like just looking back on it, this could arguably be, depending on Jurgens and Davis, I mean, this could be one of Howie Roseman's best draft classes. And just based off of where you got guys. Like, you had pick 16, you traded away, you got A.J. Brown. I mean, the man broke the all time single receiving yards record in his first year. You got Jalen Hurts' best friend. That's not a coincidence that these two guys had that automatic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's why when we got AJ, it was insane. It was like a dream come true.
Yeah, that was a very important part of that draft. I know coming up on the upcoming draft, I do want to probably get a video together talking about how he's best drafts over the past few years, because he's definitely turned it around. He went from a couple rough years to really figuring out how to get it done. So it'll be exciting to kind of revisit all of them. That AJ Brown is a huge factor. That as soon as that happened, that's when I put my money on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and man, did it come close. I was sitting there, and I didn't really care as much about the money going forward. I wanted to get that ring, but it was a little thing in the back of my mind, like, yeah, that'd be a nice little payday. But that's when that moment was. As soon as we got that guy, I said, listen, that's the move you need to make. I was a big Devontae Smith guy, but you needed to go get somebody else. Zach Pascal was not going to get the job done as your number one wide receiver, acquisition this offseason. So that was a really big part of that draft. And I remember I was sitting in the link for it, and it was a really cool moment with a bunch of my buddies, and being able to see that. It was you knew something special was going to happen this season. And then getting all the notifications blowing up about, oh, they're on FaceTime together already. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but a really good job by Howie.
Yeah. And I was at that first live practice. I mean, you saw it instantly. I mean, I was on my feet at a practice because that AJ Brown or that Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown connection was just, it's electrifying. It's so, I mean, it's something that, Eagles fans don't tend to see very often. A quarterback and a wide receiver just going crazy together. And, how many times in our lifetime have we seen that? Not much,
Mm-mm.
if ever. And it's great to know that we have Devontae and AJ and Jalen for at least the next 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's a big point if we end up getting to the game at all. Those guys are a big point of what I see with us going forward. I mean, it's unbelievable talent there, and I had a little take of a few months back where I thought it was almost as important to lock up Devontae as it was Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think Devontae is so important to this team. It's not a take that's like, oh, I'll sign Devontae and not Jalen Hurts, but it's something like that's how much I value this kid. I think he's as much as AJ Brown has had a splash. Devontae Smith has been so this year, and I think having them as a 1-2 punch, if you can have that going forward, no matter what you put on defense, it doesn't matter. A hit your offensive line's taking, you're still going to have a fighting chance because you got some weapons.
yeah, definitely. And AJ and Devontae are arguably, like, it's probably not, but arguably a top 3 wide receiver duo in football.
I think there's been so much of that going on this year, and I think without question they're top 5. I'm not going to be sitting here and bias and put them up top 2. I've seen some people try, and it's like, I'm sorry, like, they're great, and I'm excited that we have them both. But come on, there's some dogs in this league,
Yeah.
and some of them matched up. Like, I think people would try and compare the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I think Waddle's got the edge on Devontae. Not by much. I think they play different games. Um, I think Devontae's ability to catch on along the sidelines is something I've never seen with my eyes before. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I agree. It's really cool being able to say, not only like not saying, oh, we have a top 10 wide receiver, which we always wanted. It's like we have a top 5 wide receiver duo, which is really really cool.
yeah, definitely. So I guess the last three guys that I have on my list that we didn't really touch on: Dillard, Sayamalo, and Pascal. Those are the last three guys and Minshew, I guess, but Minshew.
Yeah, I had Minshew and I believe Tyree Jackson as well.
Yeah,
I think he's on there. I'm a big Tyree Jackson guy.
I think he's. Is he a restricted free agent or?
I would have to double check. I forget what I was looking at, but I saw him on there, so I just threw him in on the list. Um, but yeah, I'm big on him. I need him to be healthy. We can show everyone how much of a beast he is. He needs to stop making stupid mistakes whenever he gets his shot. But I like him. We don't have to. But I'm a big fan of his, and hopefully he can get a shot. Hopefully here, but if not, somewhere else. Um, Minshew is a walk. He was the last guy on my list of the let walk, which is kind of just like a not even really give much. Don't bat an eye list. Let him go. He wants to go start somewhere. It ain't going to be here. Jalen's proved he's the guy. So yeah, we traded for him to say, but he had hope here. He's like, look, if Hurts ends up dropping the ball, something done here in Philly, it didn't happen. Jalen Hurts went and so I think Minshew's going to go. So I guess that puts you at a guy like Sayamalu next. Then where do you got him at?
Personally, I have him as not worth bringing back. Like he would be nice, but I don't see it. I don't see us giving him the money. I don't see us like he's kind of in that Fletch range where it's like it would be nice, but they're gonna cost money. And the other guys on this list that I believe are more valuable: Gardner Johnson, Edwards, Hargrave, BG, Boston Scott, Epps, guys like that. They are more valuable, in my
Agreed.
opinion, than an Isaac Sayamalu.
Yeah, I mean, the guy made $5.3 million this year. He's playing on a Super Bowl team. Playing, he's a guard on the best offensive line in the. It's like we've talked about for a couple of these guys where this Super Bowl is going to help them. Being on this line, he can go get a bag. We saw it with a couple guys after we won the Super Bowl on that offensive line that took their opportunity. Man, these guys got families to feed. They're going to go get their money.
I mean,
And he's one of those guys that I don't see him taking a hometown discount to try and stay here. There's no reason for him to. I say he's gone. You talk to him, give him the respect because he's played really really well, but I don't see him as a guy I'm stressing to bring back.
no. He's going to get a Vitae type of
Mm-hmm.
deal, $67 million for 4 or 5 years. Like, sorry, not happening.
Yeah, not for me, unfortunately.
Especially when you have to take in account. Yes, we're talking about the free agents. You have to take into account that Jalen Hurts is going to get the bag
Mm-hmm.
this offseason. And there's no denying that. He is not going to be that Lamar Jackson, let me prove it. No. He's going to get the bag. He
Mm-hmm.
made it further than Lamar Jackson ever has. He made it further than Dak ever has. He's going to get the bag. And he was a one bad call away from proving that he might have driven us down the field and won us a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to get crazy money.
Yeah.
And as somebody that has been watching Jalen Hurts for a long time, he deserves it. And I'm going to go out on a limb. He's going to win us a Super Bowl, possibly more. And, this was just the beginning. He's 24 years old. He has his best friend. He has his college wide receiver. He has so many guys.
I mean, that game isn't a doubt that. I mean, he went out there and balled. It's the biggest stage. People People are going to sit here like, oh, what about that fumble? That game is two halves. That is a two-half game that was played, and that's how I look at it. I'm not sorry. I'm not going to look at that final score and say, hey, Jalen Hurts fumbled that football and they took it back for a touchdown. That hurts us. All right, look at the situation. Was it fourth down? I think it was third. It was third down, so we would have been putting the
Third
ball.
down because
It was
Sam
it was it was a
jumped.
terrible play. It was completely blown up. We were going to have to punt the ball and give the ball right back to Patrick Mahomes. Who knows what would have happened? We did do a good job at shutting them down the rest of that half, but either way, that he down and scored after, and we went into the half up 10 points, maybe more. That if that Devontae Smith catch goes through, I mean, it's I do not like, and I don't think anybody is. I don't think anyone's really giving him too much heat. It's more of a little check there, like, hey, he played great, but he fumbled the ball. Like, all right, yeah, he did, but guess what? He also balled out, breaking rushing records, and yeah, cool, he got the rushing touchdown record. He's sneaking the ball in a lot, but he showed he was ready for the big moment, and that's kind of what people he was going to be able to do. I think that throw to AJ Brown told you all you needed to know. Oh, was his shoulder healthy? His shoulder was healthy, really healthy, because that was arguably, I won't say the biggest play of the game for us. I think we made a few other, but probably the biggest play of the game. It was a great start. It got everybody going nuts. Um, and I'm kind of right there with you. You don't want to sit here and predict things too often with stuff like that, because stuff happens. We saw our God and Carson Wentz crumble after one season. So I mean, anything can happen. But yeah, I think I saw a lot from him that we can put a lot of trust in him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy to say that he outplayed Patrick Mahomes. I believe he did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, come
Patrick,
on. Patrick Mahomes had guys with 10 yards of separation. I could have made them throws with my left arm. Not taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes. He's great. What he's able to do on that ankle is unbelievable. But when you're talking about who was able to outplay the other one, which is unfair, opposite sides, we all know that. Jalen had to do a lot more with less. Mahomes, credit to Mahomes, but yeah, I think that it was more the story of how bad the Eagles defense was, than Mahomes absolutely lighting us up. So I agree with you. I think Jalen Hurts outplayed him.
yeah, I mean, and that's something that not many players have done in their careers. I mean, outplay is one, or win is one thing. Outplay is completely different. I mean,
The
you could,
only other time we saw it, Nick Foles outplaying Tom Brady. I mean, it doesn't happen often, and so
no,
it was something that was really cool to see.
yeah, definitely. I guess now we talk about Dillard. I mean, this guy, first round pick.
I always mentally swap him and Jordan Mailata. I'm like, Jordan Mailata is the first round pick. Dillard was the late round, just because like that's the only way I can like justify it. Um, I I mean, I don't even have him on the let walk side. I have him on the not worth bringing back, because I don't know what the heck he's going to get. I don't know what kind of money he's going to get. Some team might look at him as like, hey, when he's coming, he's played relatively well. He's a veteran guy that you're not going to have to pay too much. But I know I'm not paying him too much, because you're paying him to be a backup. I think teams would be willing to give him a nice little buck for him to come in and start for them if they're a team that doesn't have great protection for a young quarterback. And I don't see us bringing him back. Um, but if he was able to say, hey, no, he wouldn't, because he'll go start somewhere. I was gonna say, if he takes a 1 year prove it kind of, he ain't proving nothing on the bench. So um, I say he's gone, because he'll be able to go and start for a team out there next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, the next guy in line. There's two guys that are next up in line before Dillard, and that's Jurgens and Prob. Is Driscoll even still on this team? I think he is, but
Yeah.
you know, those three guys are like Jurgens probably has the most potential because we just drafted him last year, and he's very solid from what I hear, and we didn't see him much, but Dillard and Sayamalu, I wouldn't be surprised if they both end up on the Chicago Bears starting next year, because that O line for the Bears is terrible,
You
and
need to get Fields some guys.
yeah, they have so much cap space that they might sign both of them. for crazy amounts of money, and that wouldn't surprise me
Mhm.
at all. But
Yeah, I
I have
mean,
it's not worth bringing back in.
yeah, and I mean, talking about Dillard, it goes back to a point I was thinking about with Sayamalu. With signing Jalen Hurts, you're gonna have to draft really well these next couple of seasons, and specifically on that offensive line. And if there's anyone I can trust to get the job done, it's going to be Jeff Stoutland. I mean, he's been able to do some miraculous things, and I think we'll be able to bring some guy in. If it's not a first, second round pick, I think we could bring a third round pick guy in and him do a good job. Who knows? Like we could see maybe what they did with Dickerson. If Kelsey comes back for another year, who knows? Maybe they throw Jurgens in over there. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, and we'll have to see what that line's going to look like until Jason Kelsey's decision. But I don't think I worry about the line too much because even if you take a little bit of a step back, you're still going to be one of the top, lines in the league. Um, and with Jalen Hurts back there, I think I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue.
Yeah, no. Look, if there's a couple things that are guaranteed in life, it's death, taxes, and Howie Roseman taking O line and D line in the NFL draft. I
Yep.
mean, it happens every single year, and if there's one position that he's actually hit on more times than not, it is that O line and D line. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's because he is great at drafting them, or if it's Stoutland that can just coach the hell out of them. I mean,
Yeah, if there's a lock of the century, it's us having our eyes on a pretty toy in that draft and him taking an offensive guard. But
yeah,
I can see it happening. I wouldn't be too upset.
no. I mean, look at last year. N'Kobe Dean's sitting there, pick 53. Who do you take? You take Cam Jurgens and
Mhm.
still end up getting N'Kobe Dean.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But this O line, Lane, Mailata, hopefully Kelsey, and Dickerson. I mean, those four guys alone. You could throw you could throw Boston Scott in there to replace Sayamalu, and they'll be fine. It's just that O line is just so good. It makes no sense how good an offensive line can truly, truly be. And I it sucks that you did lose the Super Bowl, but I think because you did lose, I think Kelsey does come back. Personally, I
I
think he wants
mean,
to give it one last try.
I think when I thought about it all season, it was Hurts has got one more year on his rookie deal. I could see it being one more year for Kelsey. I mean, if you want to look at, he's only coming back to win. He ain't coming back here for charity. He's coming back because he wants to win. I think if you're talking about your best chances to win, it was this year and next year. I mean, we were still excited about this team without being like, oh, we're 100% winning the Super Bowl this year. Because we were sitting here thinking, all right, we got 2 years left on Jalen Hurts' deal. It's going to be this year that you're hoping to kind of build the team, get some experience, get some chemistry building, and then we're going to go for it next year. We almost got it this year. I think he I think he's going to convince himself to come back for one more year because that's what he's going to understand. That he's going to understand. Look, it was great that we were able to get there this year, but most people probably, if they were being realistic, had their eyes set on next year. So I can see him trying to run it back for one more.
Yeah, and I saw something the other day that if Kelsey does come back and you let these other guys walk, I mean, you could have upwards to $60 million in cap space. I mean, $60 million. You don't need much. I mean, some of these guys that are leaving, they have backups already. Fletch, you have Davis. I mean, Bradbury, you have two top 30 picks. You have two picks in the first round of the NFL draft. I mean, 9 times out of 10, guys that aren't Jalen Rager normally hit in the first round of the draft, and we've seen that, you know, especially with positions like cornerback. It's very hard to take a cornerback in the first round with a top 10 pick that's going to suck. You know, just be so bad because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen often. Not with a top 10 pick. Maybe you reach and you take a guy at pick 30 that could have been drafted at pick 50 and he doesn't, pan out the way you wanted him to. But if there's three cornerbacks in that top 10, slot and you end up with one of them, I mean, look at the guys last year. Stingley went, and then 2 picks later, you had Sauce Gardner, who was the
Yeah.
best quarterback, arguably, in football. And that's 2 guys right there, and they went in the top 5. And we have 2 picks. We can move up. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if we move up and use both of those picks and take the best quarterback available in this draft. It would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, there's not, yeah, like just like what you said. There's some guys that it seems like it would be a lot to lose, but it seems like a lot to lose because you're thinking about losing that person and no one replaces them. How he's going to go get a guy in the draft? He's going to go get some guys in free agency. I think we kind of covered, the guys that I think are important that you bring back because you can go get replacements, but they're not going to be as effective. But there's a few big names that I think if you let go, it's going to be hard, especially after watching them make a Super Bowl run. But um, I think it's something we're going to be able to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I think if we re-sign the top 3 guys, arguably in our list, Hargrave, Gardner Johnson, and Edwards and Epps, you re-sign those guys and you throw in a Boston Scott
I'll
and
say
Jason,
BG too.
huh?
I'll say BG too.
Yeah, BG. All these guys. If you bring back those guys and they don't, because you got to look at it. 18 guys' contracts are coming off the books. So you're going to just take that money and recycle it into new contracts.
Yeah.
You hope that Jalen Hurts takes a semi-friendly deal. You hope. I don't know if he's going to, but like when you look at a contract like Patrick Mahomes, yeah, you spend a lot of on Patrick Mahomes. He's won you 2 Super Bowls, and it's crazy to say this, but he's not even the number one guy that has that cap hit every year. That's Deshaun Watson, and
Mm-hmm.
then the next person is Dak Prescott. So when you really think about it, if you get Jalen Hurts for, I believe it's going to be 35 to 45, anywhere within that range. I mean, you can make it work. It's not impossible to get guys that will come win a Super Bowl on cheap contracts. It's
Yeah.
not impossible. You see it every year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not too worried. I think he's gonna get a lot of money, but if there's anyone that I could put faith in that's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna take a little bit less because I'm competitive and I want to win, it's Jalen Hurts.
For
I
sure.
mean,
Look at what Brady did.
mm-hmm.
21 years. Tom Brady took less money. He has 7 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers, every year he took as much money as he can get and only has one.
Yep.
There's levels to this, and Jalen Hurts knows that he wants to be one of the greatest ever. He wants to win. That's all he cares about is winning. Yeah, you want to secure that bag and get that guaranteed money like Carson Wentz did. But I the Eagles made one mistake, and a lot of times they kind of learn from them. Look at it with Jalen Rager. You draft Jalen Rager instead of taking the surefire Justin Jefferson. What do you do the next year? You trade up to pick 10, and you pick Devontae Smith. You actually trade back from 6, go to 10, go to 12, move up to 10, and then you secured another
Yeah.
draft in the future. So it's just a learning. Like Jalen Hurts said, you either lose or you learn, and he showed he Howie Roseman has learned from his mistakes, and
Definitely.
I pray he does that again. And Jalen Hurts and Howie come to an agreement on a deal that is benefits both, team friendly, and also helps Jalen, want to stay in Philadelphia for the rest of his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. I think they're gonna figure it out. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun watching this guy play. I was one of those guys who I was skeptical. I'm not afraid to say that. It was always I was rooting for him. Not only just because he plays for the Birds, but because he's a guy you want to see succeed. Um, but he had some question marks coming in, and I'm glad he proved me wrong. It was a great run this year. It was fun to watch. Um, would have been nice to see him healthy at the end of the year and not have to worry about that going through the playoffs. But I think he's overcome a lot and is definitely deserve all the money that's going to come his way.
sure. I mean, this was fun, man. Like, definitely fun. Can't wait to do more. I mean, we could still talk more if you want. I have nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we did hit on everything that we pretty much said that we were going to. We hit on every single free agent, and all 18 of them. And look, there's going to be some questions. There's going to be some guys that you don't want to leave that leave. There's going to be some guys that stay that you might be a little surprised of. Who knows? I don't spend the millions of dollars like Howie Roseman does. I talk about it, and I enjoy doing it, and I hope that this can be something that we do however many times a week to get our points across and talk Philly sports. Obviously, we're both huge Phillies fans, so Phillies talk is going to be a main focus point.
Full send, yeah, all over the Phillies talk. I'm ready for it. I can't wait. I've been counting down the days till pitchers and catchers for a while through that playoff run. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I'm like, nope. I'm just ready for it. I'm ready for this team. They gave me so much to be excited about last year. I'm telling you, being able to go through that playoff run was, oh man, it was just unworldly. It was so much fun. It was like I remember where I was and what I was doing for every game, and it was so exciting. And I think you only got better. So I can't wait to talk about them. Um, yeah, it's going to be a lot going on. We'll have the Sixers moving forward. We talked about them a little bit in the beginning, but not my necessarily area of expertise, but I'm all for a run. Hopefully they can make it happen. I don't see it happening, but I'm going to need to see a little bit change in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge Sixers fan. Probably my favorite team in the city. Crazy to say it, but I don't see them doing much. I see them possibly getting to that Eastern Conference Finals, but it's going to, unless you get that number one seed, it's going to be nearly impossible with Milwaukee and the Celtics, unless you know something happens that usually happens to us, and that's a huge injury to like a Tatum or a Giannis. But that's just, I'm not looking at that and saying, oh, like like no, like
Yeah,
if we play Boston, if we play a healthy Milwaukee, a healthy Boston, I don't know if this Sixers team with just Joel Embiid and James Harden, you know, Maxi's great, Tobias is okay, but they're not. They're just not like that. I mean, they're not championship.
yeah. They're gonna do what they're gonna do is they're gonna do us all a favor and lose in the first round, unlike what the Phils and Eagles are doing to us, getting us all the way there just to break our hearts. But no, I'm excited to see what all these teams do moving forward, and I'm very excited to talk about them. I mentioned in the beginning I was hoping to be able to get on before the Super Bowl, so we had a little bit to preview with and get some predictions in. Good thing we didn't, because I would have looked pretty stupid. But I had a lot of hope for that game. But I'm excited moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And in a couple of weeks, we got NHL trade deadline. Been seeing some JVR trades. A little bit too late for that. Thank you, Chuck, for doing something.
only took half the season to realize. Could have done it a little bit earlier and got Johnny Hockey. But
Yeah, I expect a lot of things. Well, I don't know if I expect. I hope.
don't expect. Do not expect with that.
I hope to see a lot of better stuff happen. I think we lost him. Yeah. Uh, so that was Tim, and his computer just shut off. But I'm gonna shut down the live stream. So yeah. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. This is the Broad Street Boys podcast. We hope to be doing this a lot more in the future. and Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers. We're going to be talking about it. Hopefully, this background will be a little bit better than what you see here. But thank you all so much for watching. Eagles free agent talk. Just spent the last hour and 15 minutes doing that. But again, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to both channels. Both the channels will be in the links in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. From me, from Tim, we are out. Peace.